A few steps into the woods grows a bank of wildflowers. Perhaps they're really weeds of some sort, but they have blossoms in beautiful shades of violet and yellow and white. I gather up an armful and come back to Rue's side. Slowly, one stem at a time, I decorate her body in the flowers, covering the ugly wound, wreathing her face, weaving her hair with bright colours. They'll have to show it. Or even if they choose to turn the cameras elsewhere at this moment, they'll have to bring them back when they collect the bodies, and everyone will see her then and know I did it. I step back and take a last look at Rue. She could really be asleep in the meadow after all. "Bye, Rue," I whisper. I press the 3 middle fingers of my left hand against my lips and hold them out in her direction. Then I walk away without looking back. The birds fall silent. Somewhere, a mockingjay gives the warning whistle that predates the hovercraft. I don't know how he knows it. It must hear things that humans can't. I pause, my eyes focused on what's ahead, not what's happening behind me. It doesn't take long. The general birdsong begins again, and I know she's gone. And another mockingjay, a young one by the look of it, lands on a branch before me and bursts out Rue's melody. My song, The Hovercraft, were too unfamiliar for this novice to pick up, but it has mastered her handful of notes, the ones that mean she's safe. Good and safe, I say as I pass beneath its branch. We don't have to worry about her now. Good and safe. The summer's been scorching hot and dry as a bone. There's been next to no rain to disturb the piles of ash left by the attack. They shift here and there in reaction to my footsteps. No breeze to scatter them. I keep my eyes on what I remember as the road, because when I first landed in the meadows, I wasn't careful, and I walked right into a rock. Only it wasn't a rock. It was someone's skull. It rolled over and over and landed face up, and for a long time I couldn't stop looking at the teeth, wondering whose they were, thinking of how mine would probably look the same way under similar circumstances. I stick to the road out of habit, but it's a bad choice, because it's full of the remains of those who tried to flee. Some were incinerated entirely, but others, probably overcome with smoke, escaped the worst of the flames, and now lie reeking in various states of decomposition, carrion for scavengers, blanketed by flies. I killed you, I think, as I pass a pile, and you, because I did. But without them, I would not have been part of the larger plot to overthrow the capital, or had the wherewithal to do it. The citizens of District 12 had no organised resistance movement of their own, no say in any of this. They only had the misfortune to have me. Some survivors think it's good luck, though, to be free of District 12 at last, to escape the endless hunger and oppression, the perilous mines, the lash of our final head peacekeeper Romulus Thread. To have a new home at all is seen as a wonder, since up to a short time ago we hadn't even known that District 13 still existed. The credit for the survivors' escape has landed squarely on Gale's shoulders, although he's loath to accept it. As soon as the quarter quell was over, as soon as I'd been lifted from the arena, the electricity in District 12 was cut, the televisions went black, and the scene became so silent people could hear one another's heartbeats. No one did anything to protest or to celebrate what had happened in the arena. Yet, within 15 minutes, the sky was filled with hoverplanes and the bombs were raining down. It was Gale who thought of the meadow, one of the few places not filled with old wooden homes embedded with coal dust. He herded those he could in its direction, including my mother and Prim. He formed the team that pulled down the fence, now just a harmless chain-link barrier with the electricity off, and led the people into the woods. He took them to the only place he could think of, the lake my father had shown me as a child. And it was from there they watched the distant flames eat up everything they knew in the world. By dawn, the bombers were long gone, the fires dying, the final stragglers rounded up. My mother and Prim had set up a medical area for the injured, and were attempting to treat them with whatever they could glean from the woods. Gail had 2 sets of bows and arrows, 1 hunting knife, 1 fishing net, and over 800 terrified people to feed. With the aid of those who were able-bodied, they managed for 3 days, and that's when the hovercraft unexpectedly arrived to evacuate them to District 13, where there were more than enough clean white living compartments, plenty of clothing, and 3 meals a day. The compartments had the disadvantage of being underground. The clothing was identical, and the food was relatively tasteless. But for the refugees of 12, these were minor considerations. They were safe, and they were being cared for. They were alive and eagerly welcomed. Every single refugee was granted automatic citizenship by the authorities of 13. Still, I hate them. But of course I hate almost everybody now. Myself more than anyone. The surface between my feet hardens, and under the carpet of ash I feel the paving stones of the square. Around the perimeter is a shallow border of refuse where the shops stood. A heap of blackened rubble has replaced the Justice building. I walk to the approximate site of the bakery Peter's family owned. Nothing much left but the melted lump of the oven. Peter's parents, his 2 older brothers, none of them made it to 13. Fewer than a dozen of what passed for District 12's well-to-do escaped the fire. Peter would have nothing to come home to anyway, except me. I back away from the bakery and bump into something, lose my balance, find myself sitting on a hunk of sun-heated metal. I puzzle over what it might have been, then remember. The Thread's recent renovations of the square, stocks, whipping posts, and this, the remains of the gallows. Bad. This is bad. It brings on the flood of images that torments me, awake or asleep. Peter being tortured, drowned, burned, lacerated, shocked, maimed, beaten, as the capital tries to get information about the rebellion he doesn't even know. I squeeze my eyes shut and try to reach for him across the hundreds and hundreds of kilometres, to send my thoughts into his mind, to let him know he's not alone. But he is, and I can't help him. Running away from the square into the one place the fires did not destroy, I pass the wreckage of the mayor's house where my friend Meg lived. No word of her or her family. Were they evacuated to the capital because of her father's position, or left to the flames? Ashes billow up around me, and I pull up the hem of my shirt over my mouth. It's not wondering what I breathe in, but who, that threatens to choke me. The grass has been scorched and the grey snow fell here as well, but the 12 fine houses of the victors' village are unscathed. I bolt into the house I lived in for the past year, slam the door closed and lean back against it. The place seems untouched, clean, eerily quiet. Why did I come back to 12? How can this visit help me answer the question I can't escape? What am I going to do? I whisper to the walls, because I really don't know.